seconds. So I like that also.
Thank you for sharing. So I guess we'll just go ahead and jump right into the questions that you guys all have. You guys can just raise your hand or say your question out loud, or you can use the chat if you need. Um, yeah.
Are we waiting
So
for Nirav still or no? Sorry.
He said that he's been trying to join, but he isn't able to right now because he might be signal related. So he said he's gonna keep trying to join, but if not,
Gotcha.
to just give out his email and number. Go
so I
ahead, Ian.
guess I can go first. Thanks guys for coming again. So I guess my question would be, I know anesthesia is kind of getting up there in terms of competitiveness. In the last few years, it's kind of gotten, to the point where it's like equivalent with a lot of the more like well-known competitive specialties. So, and you guys matched so well. So like congratulations. But what do you think kind of helped you guys match into a specialty that really is like up there in terms of competitiveness?
Yeah, I'm sure me and Ethan had like different approaches to this, as there's many others. I can start by giving mine. I think the number one for me and to stand out, I think in any competitive specialty is like your steps to score. I think scoring really high on that definitely opens a lot of other doors. I think being a DO where you do sub-Is and kind of how you perform on those sub-Is is really important. And then the letters you get, if you get letters from like UCSF, UCLA, kind of university names as opposed to private practice, I think that also kind of allows your access. I think those three played a very important role in me like getting interviews. And then I think I don't think anyone really knows what happens like after the interview, if they still batch at your application to rank you or if they rank you just based on your interview. But I think that's kind of what got me to the interviews. And then of course just performing well and connecting in the interview as well.
Yeah, 100%. I think like TLDR, honestly, the one thing that you have to have is a good step two score. That's I think they did some preliminary data from this year because we were the first year that was pass fail for step one. Obviously, you should pass step one on your first try, but step two score, it was one of the most significant. I think the p-value was like 0.000 something for like matched to unmatched over a certain number, probably like a high 240 or mid 250s. I don't know if you agree with that, Ravina, but
Yeah, totally.
yeah, I would say step two score for sure. Just focus on that. And as a DO, I mean, we are inherently at a disadvantage, I would say, compared to like the MD students who have home programs at established programs. I think that if you're really serious about anesthesia, when you're come time to pick your third year rotations out of Touro, I know Ravina didn't go to Stockton, but being at a program where there's a home program like Nirav matched, I think that's very crucial. Just to get face value with at least the St. Joseph's program and just build from there. That's kind of what I did.
Yeah. No, I totally agree, Ethan, with you. I wasn't even able to get a sub-I at Stockton because I wasn't part of the initial cohort. So I think if you are serious about anesthesia, Stockton's the way to go.
Yeah. And sub-Is, just get on VSlow. It's a app or it's kind of like ERAS, but it's like just apply to that early. The more the better. Um, don't really apply to programs that don't really take DOs, in my opinion. Just look at their historical match, like who matches there, and apply to programs that really respect the DO like title. I would say that.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's really hard to be a trailblazer when anesthesia is getting so
Exactly.
competitive and you're a DO. So it's better to kind of play a little bit safe.
Like MD's had a 70% match rate this year, which is pretty bad historically for anesthesia. So it's just getting extremely hard, even for if you're an MD, honestly.
Oh, and then for sub-Is, like I couldn't get my top choice was Cedars-Sinai and I didn't get like anesthesia clinical elective there, but I got like a research elective. And I got a really good letter out of that. So if you are shooting for a program that has DOs, but like sometimes the clinical anesthesia is super competitive, I think getting into like even another anesthesia related elective at the program is super important as well as like a backup.
So it looks like Nirav was able to join. Um, can you hear us, Nirav?
Hey, yeah, I can hear you guys. Sorry, the signal's kind of choppy. So just call out my name and I'll try to unmute. Hopefully you can stay connected.
Okay, no worries. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so in the chat, Julia said, are there non-anesthesia electives we should participate in before our first audition?
I personally, so in third year, you have, I think, up to 4 like clinical distinction green blocks. I used both of them for anesthesia. So I used one of them for 2 people, like 2 2-week rotations that I like personally contacted, one in North Bay and one in Napa area. I can give you guys the information of those 2 preceptors if you want. But they're really helpful. That was my very first introduction. I was like October of third year. And then my second green block, I did a third year elective at St. Joe's, just to like get my name in the minds of the like PDs, APDs there, just to have them know who I am at least, before I did my official sub-I in July of fourth year.
Yeah, I did before I went on to like my official sub-Is, my very last or second to last like rotation of third year, I did a 1 month with a private practice group. I'm from Fresno, I should have said that. So they're like UCSF Fresno affiliated and they do some private practice stuff. So I think because it was private practice, there's no students, no residents. I got a lot of like hands-on experience before I went to a university setting. So I think that's also like a cool thing to do.
And
Yeah,
then Sharon, oh,
oh, sorry.
sorry,
I
go ahead.
basically did the same thing as Ethan. I did like a 2 week before going into board studying, so towards my third year, and then that kind of got me ready for my 1 month sub-I at St. Joe's.
Thank you. And then Sharon said, what kind of extracurricular slash research were you guys involved in?
I didn't do too much, so I can just get started. My main research was, I think my Cedar sub-I was in August, but luckily I got on 3 papers because I got lucky I was at a good time. So I think that's really big. That was my main research thing. And then as far as extracurriculars, I think you could put up to 10 on the ERAS app. I think I filled that up with like a lot of PD stuff and just things like this, like being president of whatever club or VP of something.
Yeah, even this is like we didn't really have this, or not to my knowledge. So this is really good if you can get a officer position in this club. Research wise, honestly, like I feel like it's still really good to have research like Ravina has. But if you have to compromise your studying for boards, I personally wouldn't advise focusing on research over boards. It's not like it's not like ortho, it's not like neurosurgery. They really just care about board scores. And I was personally, I got on a couple of case reports, got on a couple IM case reports, but nothing like too crazy that would impress anyone on the residency committees of programs. So long story short, don't sweat too much about anesthesia research, honestly. It's more about connections and doing well on boards.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I didn't mean to say something, but I totally agree with these guys. So
I think
one of the
other questions
Go
was,
ahead, sorry.
oh no, go ahead, Tristan.
Sorry. I have a question about step 2 and just doing well on step 2 in general and how you guys accomplish that. We still haven't taken step 1, so it's obviously a little bit in the future, but how important is doing well on step 1, even if it's just pass fail? How much of that is foundational for step 2? And then do you have any general recommendations for doing well on step 2?
You want me to? I'll start. So step 1, Step one was rough, I can't lie. I came out the exam, I don't know if I've passed, honestly. It was 50-50. Luckily I passed. And I studied like starting from end of first year, I would say. I don't know. It was just something about the material that I didn't catch on to, I guess. And that was kind of like an eye opener for step two, because I knew step two was the only objective data that they would have. It's just a pass fail for step one, like you said. Step two, on my first clinical rotation, I had IM first, which I thought was good, just because it was a broad overview of everything. I just did Anki. I thought that was really key for my performance on step two. Do Anki, do a couple UWorld questions every day. The key is just being consistent. It's like anything you do, like sports, anything, just be consistent. Do like a couple questions a day. Do your daily reviews. If you're not doing Anki, focus on UWorld. Just consistency. I think that's key. You don't want to cram step two.
Yeah, I think for step one, all I did was Anki, to be honest. And yeah, step one's a different beast for sure. But as far as step two, I don't think I didn't figure out how to manage Anki and rotation. So all I did for step two was UWorld. But kind of how Ethan said, I started like from day one of third year, did UWorld, kept doing it, and then made sure I finished all the questions before step two. And as far as like dedicated step two, I think I only had like 3 weeks. So I think if you just start early, you don't need that much time at the end to kind of review a lot of the concepts.
And we can go more in depth about like a specific strategy, like molded to the individual, when the time comes. And you can shoot, I guess, any of us an email, about how to like strategize this step two plan to your like strengths and weaknesses, I would say. This is like a broad overview. And like we have COMAT exams after every rotation during third year. I really didn't do well on those. I didn't really focus on those that much. I think those are kind of a weird type of question where it's very different from step two. Some people did Truer and killed those exams. They got honors. I personally didn't. I got maybe 2 honors. I focus on like how the USMLE step two would write their questions and did UWorld based off that. I would just pass the COMATs.
Yeah, I agree with Ethan. Don't try to
Yeah,
don't try to honor them and like try to stress yourself out. Like I don't even think rotation honors, like I don't think anyone talked about that. So just pass your rotation. Step two score matters the most.
exactly.
So it looks like Larissa said, how do you find physicians to do elective rotations with in third year?
By mass
The
email.
Excel sheet, right?
Yeah, there was an Excel sheet, and I luckily found 2 that was willing to take me. One guy was really good. I still talk to him today. Like he wrote me a really good letter, so I can give you guys his information. He's really looking forward to like mentoring, like especially DO students. He's a DO himself, so I think that would be a great person to go to.
Yeah, I think there's the Excel sheet. And then if you personally know anyone, just shooting them an email.
Yeah. I think there's a couple, like if you're in Sacramento, there's like a private practice group. I don't know. Nirav, did you do any with Dr. Mark or something?
Yeah, I did one with Case Medical Group, and to be honest, through him, I was able to score another sub-I and then an interview or two. After that, through someone that he knew that I then also rotated with in my fourth year. So it's really about who you know in that aspect, like how you guys said earlier. So if you guys have any questions about those, just give me a shout and I'll send you their contact.
Yeah.
Would you guys
And
mind
then,
putting your emails in the chat while you guys are saying that? Thank you.
Ash asked, does being well prepared for step one carry over to step two? Also, does not doing well in step one correlate to not doing well in step two?
I think because it's pass fail, it's hard to say if you did really well, you barely passed, and everything in between. I will say as far as mentality, I was studying for step one as if it was scored. I think that helped. But step one is so like preclinical, and step two is really not about the nitty-gritty. So it is 2 very different exams. So yeah, if you don't do really good on step 1, I think that's totally okay, and you can score really high on step 2.
Yeah, I agree. I think if my step one was scored, it'd be like a 215 max for me, honestly. I don't even know what the threshold is for passing, but step two was way better, scored way better. So if step one was a struggle for you, don't be discouraged. Step two is very different. Step two, you just have to like stick with your studying. It's more about like what you know and how you apply it. Like doing UWorld every day, that's gonna guarantee you a good step two score for the most part, unless you have like a bad test day.
I've got another question. Did you guys use any resources before your anesthesia rotations to make sure you were well prepared and stood out?
I didn't.
There's like a document. I can send everyone it when the time comes, but it's called like the Stanford Guide, CA1. They don't really expect you to know that much. Just be like a normal person on rotations, honestly. Know the basics maybe, but they really don't care about that, honestly. But yeah, I can send that document to everyone who wants to read it, but focus on step two.
Yeah, and then we can also the anesthesia club will send out the recording of this meeting afterwards, and then we can also grab all that information from you as well. So we'll just send it out to everyone. So there's kind of like a, piece of information for everyone that everyone could look at. I guess I had a question too for the first years. So we're all kind of going into our first year summer, and I think a lot of people are kind of worried about their summer, and they're like, we're stressed out from first year, but also we want to be doing something. And I've heard kind of mixed reviews on like, should you do research or take it easy? What are you guys' thoughts on that?
Yeah, I didn't do anything. I took a big 2-month vacation. I think it's really nice because I think first year is a lot, and then kind of step 1 studying I started right as a year 2 hit. Yep. Everyone's different. I didn't do anything.
I was kind of like in your guys' boat, like I was kind of neurotic. Should I be doing something, like to improve my application? Because I knew I wanted to do anesthesia from the get-go. But I didn't really get any anesthesia research or any of that. I did like a 1 month small research like position at UCSF, just like cold email, but it was like once a week. It wasn't too crazy. But yeah, just I would say take it easy a little bit and maybe study a little bit of like micro or pharmacology towards the end to gear yourself back in that grind mode for second year for boards. But yeah, just take it easy for a couple months.
Yeah, our class wasn't offered anatomy, but they offered us like 2 weeks of a crash course anatomy during the summer between our first and second year. So I know I did that, and then during that, I also like helped one of Dr. Mahmood like write a grant for one of her projects. And I know I'm only mentioning that because a lot of the interviews that I had, they all asked me about it. They're very interested in kind of like something very out there and not really, anesthesia related or kind of not the typical service thing. Like it's not just regular community service or anything that was available to us at that time during COVID. So it really piqued their interest and they really liked talking to me about that. So that's kind of what I did. And other than that, I chilled. But one of my buddies did start studying during that little gap for step one. And I mean, he was done with all his step questions by like early January, and he was like just so less stressed than all of us were. So if take that with what you will, and go from there.
Kind of what Nirav mentioned, like it's really cool to have things outside of medicine and outside of anesthesia. I want to say like 80% of my conversations during the interview were like other stuff that I do and not medicine related. So the fact that you guys are first or second years, or even if you're third year, just having some cool hobbies that kind of catch people's eyes, it's a cool thing. Also, make sure you enjoy it.
They asked me 100%. They asked me a lot about Project Happy. I don't know if you guys still have Project Happy, but it's a cool club to join. It's just something that you can do outside of school to help the community. You really enjoy that stuff. So they asked me a lot about that.
Yeah, because anesthesia is so like not part of a typical curriculum and not very common, or a lot of people don't know about it. They're really just interested in what else about you makes you interesting, because clearly there's not a lot of anesthesia answers in those, or like anesthesia related answers for that question. So they really love it. Every interview I had, there was practically, it was like 80% something else and then 20% anesthesia. It was really good. So just, be interesting, I guess.
Yeah, anesthesia interviews are actually pretty laid back. Like you don't have to get stressed for it. It's just like a genuine conversation. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I enjoyed them.
Mhm.
Not like med school, not like Touro's interview.
Christopher asked, did any of you dual apply or know anyone who did, and what advice could you give about building an app for two different specialties?
I technically dual applied. I can't lie. But I was anesthesia from the get-go. I was just kind of nervous just because I saw the uptrending like competitiveness every year. So that kind of really scared me. And so I threw in a couple IM applications. Definitely not a lot, like maybe 10. Barely got any IM interviews. Didn't end up ranking any IM programs on my final list. But most of my interviews were anesthesia. The IM programs probably saw right through it. And they're like, this guy's anesthesia. I'm not going to waste my time, right? But our class, I would say the majority of people who had success in the anesthesia match were people who were mainly like focused on anesthesia, I would say. That was their priority. There's a couple people who dual applied IM, and I don't think they matched. So you can take that for what you want. So I think you just got to be focused on anesthesia from the get-go, especially with the competitiveness that it has now.
Yeah, I didn't dual apply, but the people in our class who did do anesthesia and IM, what they did is they also made sure they had like at least one IM sub-I in case it was brought up, like you don't have any sub-Is in IM. If you have like all anesthesia and nothing IM, I mean, it really does stick out. I think for them, when I talked to them, they were also like, I just want to match. I don't care if it's anesthesia or IM. So if that's your mentality, that's another thing. But if you really want to do anesthesia, then I wouldn't recommend dual applying.
I agree.
Yeah, I met a few students on my anesthesia sub-Is who were saying that they were dual applying just because they were scared of not getting into anesthesia. Like Ethan said, the competitiveness was just increasing and increasing every year. But you can tell that those guys weren't in it for internal medicine at all. So it's kind of just like, if you are considering dual applying, make sure you're doing it for like the sake of I actually like IM and I actually would see my future in it, not just out of fear of not matching, because I don't think that's a good mindset to go in on dual applying.
Yeah, and that was what I did. That was what I did,
Yeah.
and I did not get a lot of IM interviews. So yeah.
Also, I've only ever heard of like anesthesia IM, anesthesia ER. I don't think there's like other specialties that you could feasibly dual apply with anesthesia.
There's a lot of like MD students, like they'll have anesthesia as their backup and be like ortho dominated, ENT dominated. It's like that's so bad. Like
Yeah, I heard surgery and anesthesia duos, and there's just, again, it's just all for the backup. They just want to be in the OR. It don't matter what they're doing.
and the sad part is like if they're a Stanford student, if they're a Harvard student, like they got that anesthesia on lock, honestly.
Yeah.
Just sucks.
Also, what really blew my mind when talking to like MDs, they only apply to like 60 programs. And like I don't know about you guys, but I applied to every anesthesia program across the country. So you definitely cannot compare yourself to some of these MDs out there.
Definitely open like a credit card right before.
Henry asked, what are your thoughts on signaling for ARS? How did that play out for you?
You guys can start on that.
Yeah, so it's 2-tier, 5 gold and 10 silver, which I really don't like, but it's kind of what we're stuck with. My approach was for the gold, I think I had like mostly reach, like 3 reach and 2 kind of like safety-ish. And then for silver, like, so I'm from Visalia, Kauai is about like 30 minutes away from me. So that's one of the California programs. I didn't give them a gold, I gave them a silver just because I was from the Valley. Um, and then honestly, like 2 days before we submitted applications, I switched my entire strategy. So initially I was applying to like, or I was giving silvers to like UCLA, UCSD, and then recognizing that they don't match DOs, I switched all of those over to like DO friendly programs in like Arizona, Colorado, and a few others. I think I heard back from all my golds, but maybe only 2 of my silvers. I didn't hear back from a lot of the silvers.
Yeah, I feel like I don't know, like putting myself in a perspective of someone who gets a silver like signal is basically like telling them that like, hey, there are 5 people who deserve gold, and that's kind of one of the program directors. Actually, I see Dave's Ravina told me. She was like, yeah, and if people give us a silver, we never look anymore. It's like pretty wild to me. Um, that's just coming from technically a program director, guys. So, you know, I don't know what to say. I'm just sharing my Skulls was also kind of a silly idea. And then when she said that, kind of scary because that's almost like signing off all of those 10 silver assignments that I granted. I got interviewed at I one of my silvers and then all of my golds. So, or I think so gold is very, very important. I think.
I think you got cut off. But yeah, I agree with them. I did 5 golds. Yeah, I did 5 golds. 2 of them I didn't get an interview with, and that was probably my mistake. I applied to Michigan, just because I went to undergrad there, and I applied to UW, just because I saw one deal, and I was just like over my head with those 2. That was a mistake. So long story short, you want to focus on places that accept a good amount of DOs. Maybe you can throw 1 gold, but each signal is so valuable for a DO. And you just want to focus, especially if your end goal is just to be an anesthesiologist, you want to focus on like those DO programs that have taken DOs. I mean, Loyola, it's an academic institution. It's an MD medical school, but it's taken DOs. And so I silvered Loyola, knowing that, and they gave me an interview luckily. So you want to just do your research, make sure that they take DOs.
Yeah, and like as disappointing as it sounds, like I had a meeting with Hartwig kind of early on, and he was like, you can't waste your golds on like Stanford and UCSF that never even opened DO apps because it's so valuable. So
They'll
even if
talk.
you're reaching for those, yeah.
They'll see DO, they'll toss it out.
And even the DO at UW, I think he's the son of the APD. So it's like, yeah, he's a DO, but nepotism. So you have to kind of look into that.
Yeah. You could maybe throw like one of those like reaches in your silvers just because like you don't have anything to lose low key. Like it's a silver, whatever. You have 10 of those. Maybe you can waste one of them, just to like throw your shot. But yeah, focus on DO programs.
Also, Ethan, I don't know if you did this, but like towards the end, like I got like okay interviews, but some of my silvers that weren't responding to me, I started like emailing them individually, and then that got me 3 interviews too. So just kind of emailing them after the fact.
100%. Like once they're like a lull in the interview process, start emailing. Like honestly, you can email most of the programs that you apply to. Like it won't hurt you. Like I got probably like a good 5 to 7 interviews just from like emailing them. I wasn't in their first batch of interviews. I showed my interest through that email. I personally couples match, so I use that to my advantage as well. So she would get an interview at a program that I also applied to where I didn't get the interview originally. We both would send an email to that to the leadership there, and sometimes I would get an interview from that. So emailing is your friend also. It won't hurt. It can just help.
Also, we just talked about gold signals, but with the geographic signals, I think I try to overlap a lot of them with the geographic, but I still got 2 interviews like from Florida, and like I didn't signal Florida or my signal whatever. So I think I've seen some advice where it's like don't apply to programs outside of your geographical signal, but I mean you could still potentially get interviews.
Out of all of them, if you can
Yeah.
financially do it, honestly.
Mhm.
Ash, I'm gonna address your question after because Amrit has to do with this. Amrit said, how did you research or figure out which specific programs are DO friendly, and or do you have any strategies to figure this out?
You have Instagram, Amrit? Basically, every program has an Instagram page. Just scroll through their program, see their like matriculating class. They usually have what school they go to. That's a good way, in my opinion, or go on their website. If they have one DO in 4 classes, that's pretty tough. But if they have like 5, 6, 7, I would say you have a good shot.
And I think Frida is free. I feel
Yeah.
like I remember using that. Yeah, so that's another one.
I didn't really use that because I just didn't know like how updated that was.
That's true, yeah.
Like everyone uses Instagram nowadays.
And then
Also just
Ash,
the Excel sheet. Oh, sorry.
no, go ahead.
A Hartwig sends out a sheet that has like where Turo has matched. That's kind of a good, where we've matched before to
Yeah,
look
and
at those
also,
programs.
like if you guys have time, I feel like we can compile a list of programs that have sent out interviews historically that they didn't receive a signal from. So those are really good programs to apply to. You don't have to waste a signal on them, and they'll still send interviews to you. I know I got like 3 or 4 interviews I didn't even send signals to. And historically, those programs, you should apply to those programs. I can work on that.
That would be amazing. Thank you. Ash said, are there any prelim anesthesia programs similar to prelim surgery to apply to in case you don't get in the first year and or to be more prepared second cycle?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I think so we had a guy called Hunter. Hunter's Ravina's co-resident, future co-resident. He did a prelim surgery year. So I think it's just prelim medicine or prelim surgery. And I feel like he told me that prelim surgery was better just because you're in the operating room. You can have that close face-to-face connections with the anesthesiologist. So it's gonna be tough though, like that year.
Yeah, another one of our peers that went unmatched, she soaked into a prelim surgery as well. She's going to reapply anesthesia. Oh, I didn't mention this. As far as like my backup, yeah, I only applied anesthesia, but you also have to apply to like transitional year programs. So the way I ranked my transitional year programs, and those interviews are pretty easy to come by. I ranked it if they had like an anesthesia program associated with it, I would rank it higher, and if it didn't, rank it lower. So I think that was technically my backup. I would go into a TY and then reapply.
Just to follow up on that, so what kind of I guess experience do you gain during TY? Like what's the main, objective, I guess?
Yeah.
Your main objective for TY, if you didn't match anesthesia, is to make is to be a good resident. Obviously, you're basically an intern. You want to during those because you're gonna have 3 months before you have to submit the next ERAS. If you're gonna start residency in July, you're gonna have to submit your ERAS in September. So you're gonna have 3 months. Try to get an elective in anesthesia to make connections with that specific program to better your chances. But I would say that's like the purpose of a TY.
Nice. That makes sense. Thank you.
And the Stockton TY and the Kauai TY are like the best. They'll have like 2-3 months kind of built in. The PD like will meet with you kind of beforehand if you go unmatched, and they'll craft your schedule. So I think those two are 2 programs I don't know if that work really well.
Yeah. Plus, they both have DO friendly anesthesia programs linked with them. So
Yeah.
it's a big
And
deal.
I guess speaking of the Stockton rotation site, so we actually just have opened a new rotation site down in LA, which is where I'm from. So that would be nice if I was able to go there because I'll be at home. But it's like kind of not well established. But I was kind of thinking, if I'm around LA, I could probably potentially like try to knock down some doors, whether UCLA or Cedars-Sinai, any of those places. Maybe I don't know if it'll be third year or fourth year, but I guess like the trade-off between the Stockton and having the TY program versus going to an unestablished place, like what kind of advice do you guys have with respect to that?
What place is the LA one? Like, what's
It's specifically like it's a hospital called, I think, Mission Hills Community Hospital or something. Isn't like Pacoima City.
yeah. Personally, I would always try to do my third year rotations. I know you want to be at home, but I would personally do my third year rotations where there's an established linkage to a anesthesia residency program if you want to be a good chance at being an anesthesiologist, in my opinion.
Even if it's not at Stockton, like even if you're gonna end up
Yeah,
somewhere else, it still
even if
helps.
you're at Kauai, but like all our Touro like third year sites, I mean Stockton is the only one I believe that has an
Yeah, it's the
anesthesia.
only one.
But you can give it a shot. Like you're gonna be close to a lot of like you're gonna be close to Riverside University Health System. You're gonna be close to RCH. They both have like good programs that are DO friendly, but you're just not physically there. You're not doing your rotations there. Do you get what I mean? But
Yeah.
often you are doing your rotations there. You're literally like a floor above where the PD is.
Mm, okay. Okay, that makes sense. Thank you. I guess I'll ask more questions since I don't see any other questions coming through the chat. How do you guys feel like in terms of emotionally, in terms of, whether it's excitement or because, anesthesia is such a super responsible position in terms of, patient's life is on your hands and like going through the first year of med school, like obviously, I mean, as I come from a math background where everything is quote unquote perfect, and medicine isn't like that, like someone can have an allergic reaction to something without a prior allergic reaction history or anything like that. So, you know, I guess like how are you guys feeling about dealing with those kinds of,
Yeah.
difficulties of anesthesia?
Yeah,
Um,
oh, go ahead.
go ahead, Ravina. Sorry.
I'm super excited. I love anesthesia. And I think that's why third year is really important because you're in the OR, you see things go bad. And like anesthesiologists just handle it with so much like, I don't know, they just have so much confidence. Like they know what to do, they know what the next steps are. And like no other doctor I've seen like acts the way an anesthesiologist acts. Like everything could be going super bad, but you're so calm, you're so collected. You kind of set the tone for the OR at that point because surgery and everyone looks at you. So I think your training is just so good that yeah, I'm excited.
And you kind of just build that up as you go through, I'm assuming residency more so than third and fourth year, obviously, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay. So you
Definitely
guys don't feel confident yet, I'm assuming it's too early, right? Like,
Oh hell no, there's no
okay,
chance.
for sure. Okay,
Yeah.
that makes sense.
We're not even close to where we need to be. But if you're someone who can remain calm in like the craziest situations, you can't do anything else but this specialty, in my opinion. Like you gotta know like 3, 4, 5 steps ahead of what like any possibility. Like you even like I've seen on my rotations like these anesthesiologists, they've seen like the worst of the worst, like, and it doesn't affect them emotionally. Like obviously they're gonna be sad. Any like death is gonna be very terrible, but like they still have the duty to like treat the next patient. Like
Mm.
patient deserves their 100% care. So if that's you, like I think you got to do this.
Mm-hmm. Um, I guess is there one interesting like specific story like where something went wrong and like what kind of maneuvers the anesthesiologist did that, was like not only calm but like it was successful, I guess.
don't know if you have enough time to cover that. That's a
Oh, okay,
pretty heavy
okay.
question.
Oh, but yeah, I mean, I mean, it's every day. You'll see it in your third, fourth year rotations. Like every day, like kids will like code and stuff, and they'll very calmly like in epi and all that stuff, face CPR. You'll see that. You'll be amazed. I
Mm,
was amazed. That's why I love the
mm.
specialty.
I'm amazed from a distance, so I could imagine. Thank you guys so much.
Larissa asked for Ravina, as a female going into anesthesiology, what would you say is different in your application experience and your perception of the culture and women in anesthesia?
I think I feel like very comfortable. I think anesthesia is like 40, close to 50% like female. I think like once you're in practice and attending, so there's like not as much as a disparity versus like ortho or vascular surgery. I think during like my surgery rotation initially in third year, like half of the anesthesiologists were women, and I had like good conversations with them and like good experiences with them. So I think that kind of gave me the confidence of like it's not a male dominated, which is really interesting because where I did my sub-Is, it was mostly male attendings, but because I knew that like, there's like a pretty even split in anesthesia, I didn't feel a certain way. Um, I guess like kind of going back, like anesthesiologists in general are just so chill. So I don't think I felt like I was being like discriminated against or anything like that. But I feel very comfortable, very calm going into this profession. There wasn't anything different in my application also. It was just like a regular, yeah.
Henry asked, did you go anywhere specific for your fourth year core rotations? Did you happen to do them at your sub-I location?
No, wherever you're most convenienced at, do them there, I would say. Those don't really matter. Like I don't even know why we have to do like pediatrics and OB-GYN like fourth year. It's just a Touro policy.
Yeah, most MDs don't do anything for it there. They just chill.
Simena asked, what were your difficulties with couples matching? Did you have any advice for couples matching?
Um, that's like that's a whole nother meeting, I would say. Um, Couples matching, I think, long story short, it's good. In terms of I would say you'll get more interviews, couples matching, but that's like only n equals one, which is me, honestly. But couples matching, you can advocate for your girlfriend, boyfriend, to get more interviews. But when it comes time to like actually rank the places, that's when you have to sit down and just talk about what your priorities are. Are they like you want to be together like for all 4 years, or do you want to be at a really good place, more so for all 4 years, even if you're like different parts of the country? So that's like a whole different ball game. Dr. Hartwood really helped us. When it comes time, you can reach out to me and we can sit down and talk more in depth about couples matching. But it also depends on what your partner is going into. I would say that's pretty big.
Even just out of curiosity, do you guys have one rank list together or two separate?
One rank list together.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, one rank list together. She like lists hers and I list mine, and they'll combine like with the combinations.
Okay.
It was a mess. But yeah, our class had a really good couples match year. We had an ENT couple match, which is really impressive. Um, two EMs that went to UC Irvine, or one EM or one IM that went to UC Irvine, which is pretty impressive. So there's a lot of people to ask for a couples match in our class.
Larissa asked for sub-Is, what determines your acceptance? Is it primarily who you know or extracurriculars?
I think for sub-Is, like it's also like you want to make sure you perform really well because if you don't, you're not going to even get an interview and then you've kind of wasted your month. So I think like when you do get a sub-I, it's very important to perform really well. I think it's also nice to like get a letter from like one of the attendings, even if you this is kind of complicated. Even if it's like a community program, you can send when you're applying, you could send certain letters to certain programs. So if you're applying to that program, you can send their attending letters to just that program, not everyone else. I think that kind of gives you an in as well. And I mean, I'll be honest, I had 3 sub-Is. I didn't have like too many in anesthesia. I know some people have more, some people have less. And for me, just the quality of letters I got in those sub-Is meant more than my extracurriculars, I think.
Larissa, are you talking about like what determines your acceptance to that sub-I?
I was asking the same thing.
Like,
Oh,
Yeah, that was what I was talking
yeah.
about.
I'm
If you
sorry.
went to a
I yeah.
sub-I in like a private practice versus like a university hospital, how would that differentiate you? Like what matters most?
Sorry, can you repeat that last part?
Like what is the most important factor in getting accepted into sub-Is in like university systems compared to private practice?
Gotcha. Honestly, no one knows.
Nothing.
Sub-Is are tough to get as a DO. I can't speak for MDs, but you want to be, it's, in my opinion, until proven otherwise, it's first come, first serve.
Yeah.
You want to be on that vSlow app the day that it opens. You want to pre-write your letters of interest to these places that you want to do sub-Is before it even opens, so you can just upload everything and submit. And you want to also follow up with emails to those programs that you applied on vSlow, to their coordinators, just to get your name out there. Just be like, hey, I applied to your program, still super interested. You want to do all that. And
What
after that, who knows?
Yeah, what I've heard from discussions with the coordinators was a lot of it, it is practically first come, first serve. They say that they review applications, but a lot of it just you end up getting it if you were the first on the list. But that's the importance of what Ethan just said in terms of following up, because people always back out or their schedules change or they get another sub-I in place of that one. So they have to rearrange some stuff. So those emails that you send out, if you're like, you might be super far down on the list in terms of the first come, first serve. But if you sent, 1 or 2 extra more emails to that person and they recognize your name first, they might just give it to you. And a lot of it is how I got 2 sub-Is like that, and they literally told me that they're like, it was because of your email, because otherwise we would have just kept that spot blank, and the next person to try to reapply on vSlow would get it. So it's who knows, man. Sub-Is suck.
And like when the time to do all this gets closer, you can probably contact individually any of us 3, and then we can help you with
Yeah,
that.
absolutely.
Feel free.
They also cost money. I didn't realize that. So
Yeah.
every program you apply to, it adds up as well, which is fine. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, but just so you know.
Yeah, just to tell you guys, I think I applied to like 50 or 60. I can't even remember. The number is absurd, and I got 1 through emailing. Like on the vSlow. Everything else was just private emails or like through like what is it, clinical exchange or something.
Nexus.
Yeah, clinical nexus. Yeah. Like those are all my sub-Is, and I only got 1 through vSlow, which is just absolutely ridiculous because I think I spent like almost $2,000 on sub-Is. It was ridiculous. So good luck.
Ash asked, do you think being a Touro DO student seems to have an advantage over other DO students since Touro is highly ranked as a DO school?
No, absolutely not, I think. I don't think they care about that. Like, there's so many like other DO places that have more anesthesia matches than we do, just historically. Things that I can like, even Touro, Nevada had way more last year. So
Touro, Nevada does really well.
not really. I wanted it to be, but no. AT still does well too. I don't know what that is, but AT still does good.
I don't know if
And then
Western.
Western.
Yeah,
I think Western does well. Yeah.
yeah, I think they have like 8 or 9.
And Kansas City does good too. Like they all do good.
Yeah.
I would say we're like pretty mid, I think. Low key.
Why do you guys think that's the case
I have
though?
no idea, man. I wish
Because
I
I
could.
mean, it's the same competitiveness, whether it's
Yeah.
Western or here. I mean, for the most part,
Like
right?
we were tougher to get into, right? For like
Exactly.
wise. Yeah. I wish I could tell you, but
Changed, honestly. But thank you.
yeah.
So I think we'll probably wrap it up soon, just because I know you guys have other things and I want to respect your time. But if you guys maybe could just go around and give like one piece of advice for everyone, just to like sum up your experience, that'd be great. It could be like really small. It doesn't have to be big. And then yeah, just to really appreciate your time today.
I think like emailing is your best friend before getting interviews, after getting interviews, after you've gotten the interview and you're ranking them really high. I sent like my top program, like you're my number one, but I sent like everyone else, I'm really interested in you. Even when I was ranking. So just email, email, email.
I would say focus, try your best to do well on step two. I know it sucks that one score like really determines everything, but just do your best on step two and make that your primary focus. Everything else will align after that.
Yeah, I agree. I think throughout the process, I learned the importance of like truly the importance of it's all about who you know. Like everyone I met through somebody else that I met through somebody else is just it's absurd and it's ridiculous. How influential they were in the process and how I feel like I got lucky on a lot of the people that I met. Especially up in the Sac area. I wanted to stay in the Sacramento slash like San Joaquin area, just because my fiance was up there. So when people heard that, they're like, "Oh, okay, let me just message someone, like who might be able to help you get this interview or this sub I." Either way, it's all about that, and it's all about the emails, like Ravina said. Obviously, step two, like step two is no matter what, it's always going to be about step two. Just pretend like that is the number one thing, because that way you'll have a good score and you can take the next step and just keep moving. But there's been a lot of times where I just had that draft email ready to be sent, and I was like, oh, I'll just check it the next day, or like I'll like revise it a little bit. And then a week goes by and that email is still sitting, and then by the time I send it, I get a response like the next day, and I'm just like, why didn't I just send it? Like a week ago and save myself the stress. So just like they both said, step, email, talk to people, be personable, and you'll get where you get. And I think that's the best kind of advice that I can give in terms of my experience.
Yeah, and last thing, very last thing, just go through the Touro match list, see where people match at our school. Just reach out to them. Maybe they can talk to someone. You never know, like Nirav said. They can talk. Ravina can help out with Davis. Nirav can help out with Stockton. We all go to the same school. We all want each other to be successful anesthesiologists. Reach out to
Yeah.
me if you want to do a sub-I in Chicago and Loyola. I can see what I can do. No guarantees, but you never know. Like, it doesn't hurt.
Yeah. And find the people who are also applying anesthesia, and just, you go to the process together. That was very big for me. And it was awesome seeing these guys on my like sub-Is or interviews or like visits. I saw both of them all the time, and it felt good to know that we were going through it together, because it's super competitive compared to everywhere else. Like, it is what it is. We're in it together. So
Yeah, like I don't think don't think like you're competing against each other. You're competing against every other person in America. So I think it's super important, like support one another and just to keep in contact. Nirav, what happened to the Sutter program? Do you know?
no, I have no idea, and I was really annoyed because I kind of liked it. And like what I was telling you guys, I'm like, I met another person through another person through another person. Like Sutter somehow snuck in there and snuck out so quickly. I have no idea what happened. But they might open again next year, so be ready for that, guys. Because not only are they accepting like new interns, but they're also accepting CA1s, like 10 and 10. So people from our class who may not have matched are going to be applying with you guys. So definitely reach out to them and see, like, don't like ask what they did wrong or anything, but like, because you never know what makes this match. Like what, I don't know. But they went through it, they know how it feels, and they're going to be with you in the application cycle. They're not competing against you, so don't think of it as a competition anyways. But it, like I said, you're all in it together. Ravina, I saw Ravina when we were at the second look or whatever for Sutter.
Yeah, at Sutter,
yeah, met a super cool coordinator. She was super nice.
yeah, that's
I
gonna
don't
be
know
a
what
pretty cool
happened.
program if it works out next year.
Arrowhead
look
and
into
SoCal is opening too.
Oh.
That's crazy. I'm literally across the street from Arrowhead. I can actually see it right there.
It's a good it's a
wild.
program in SoCal. So keep your eye out on the lookout for new programs also.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I had no relationship to Sacramento. Like one of our other people that was applying anesthesia, she texted me and she was like, "Oh, Sutter's opening a program." So just keep in touch with everyone.
Yeah, they actually opened it after the application opened for the ERAS. So like I submitted my application, an hour later, Dr. Mark, the one I worked with at Sutter Sacramento, texted me saying, "Dude, they just opened and they're open on ERAS." And I was like, "Oh crap!" So I went back and like added that to my application and just resubmitted it. And then I told Ethan I should, it's just with the more people the more likely you are to get those little sneaky things that happen. So yeah. Cool.
All right. Well, it looks like our time is up. We'll let you guys go, but I just want to say thank you so much for taking time out of your day to speak with us and share such valuable insight. And then everyone here, we will send out the recording and we'll send out their contact information as well. So you guys can reach out to them individually if you like. But good luck on in residency, and thank you again so much for speaking with us today.
Absolutely. Please keep in contact with us. And I'm sorry for my situation. I was driving and I was supposed to be home already, but I'm not. So yeah, just reach out, phone, text, email, whatever works with you guys, and we're all here for you. So
yep.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you guys.